You're still watching the conversation on Lagos television. It's a known fact that about 20 million or thereabouts children are out of school in Nigeria. Despite this disturbing figure, it will surprise you that some state governors are still paying lip service to the provision of basic education at the primary and junior secondary school level. I'm saying all this because of the recent revelation by the Executive Secretary of UBEC, which states that about 34 states refused to access the UBEC fund, which is about 263 billion naira for last year, which was 2024, simply because they did not pay their own part of the game, which was the payment of the counterpart funding. For a country with that huge number of children that are out of school, what exactly is the future of this country when these governors have refused to access this fund, which is meant to provide basic education for our children at the primary and junior secondary school level? We have those who should know when it comes to the issue of education with us in the studio this morning. I have somebody right here with me, Otuba Muiwa Ogunlaja, educationist and policy development strategist, right here in the studio. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Mehdi. Good morning.
And Dr. Gboyega Ilusonya, MD Wise Daniel Development Consultancy Limited, will be joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Dr. Gboyega Ilusonya. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, Ajibola and the conversation team. Happy New Year.
All right. This UBE scheme was an initiative of President Olusegun Obasanjo while he was the president of the country. And then for a country with that huge number of out-of-school children, with this position and, of course, the recent revelation by the Executive Secretary of UBEC that about 34 states have refused to have accessed the UBEC fund for the year 2024. Does this show anything serious or significant about our drive at reducing the number of children that are out of school in Nigeria? Let me start with you, Dr. Ilusonya.
Oh, thank you, Ajibola. I think the issue is a very serious issue, but it's not a new issue. And I'm saying that it's not a new issue because this has been a recurrent part of utilizing the UBEC fund. And in 2010-2011, Professor Tunde Adeniran, who was the then Minister of Education, met the same situation, backlog of UBEC fund that were not accessed by states. And so he had to go around the whole federation trying to understand what the issues are. So for me, it's challenging, it's a shame, you understand me, it's disgraceful that this fund, which is more or less like, well, you can say free of charge, but we need to look deeper in terms of what could have caused this. Because then, in 2011, there were issues just beyond not assessing it. And I think some of the issues that were identified then was the fact that the fund has a rigid process of deployment. And so some states felt that what the fund was meant for, they actually have done it. And that was precisely what happened in a particular state, Lagos State, then when they didn't access. It was because the process, what the fund is meant to be used for, the state felt they had already done it. So it became an issue that why should I go and pay matching grant to obtain a fund to do what I have already done? But I don't know whether that situation still remains, because at that time, there had to be some compromise. And then that particular issue was, that bottleneck was removed then for some states to be able to access the fund. So I think we need to understand, we need to look at it much more deeply in terms of what's going on in UBEC, what's going on with the process, and then what is going on with the state government or the state governor. Is it an issue of not being interested? Is it an issue of bureaucratic bottlenecks and some of those things? I think that would be my first take on this.
All right, Otuba Ogunlaja, what has been your own findings so far? Like he rightly said, Dr. Ilusonya, he said this is not the first time that we are seeing such. It happened in 2017 and, of course, 2016 or thereabouts. And here we are in 2024. And this provision of basic education is one of the Millennium Development Goals.
Thank you. When the Universal Basic Education Scheme came up in 1999, courtesy of President Obasanjo, it was in fulfillment of one of the aspirations of UNO, the Millennium Development Goals, the 7 Millennium Development Goals, meant to bring up what you call improve on the social structure of most third world countries, especially African countries, before the solution of the Sustainable Development Goals. And basically, it was to ensure that most Africans and third world people could read and write. We're able to read, you're able to write, then you have been equipped against poverty. You have been equipped against bad governance. You have been equipped to be ready for what's called democratic governance. And unfortunately in Nigeria, most state governors who should have taken advantage of this did not. Basically, one, they had to put what's called counterpart funding. Most state governors believe that the money they should put down as counterpart funding could be better used for their reasons that will benefit them, like establishing airports in their states where there are no flight itinerary, establishing white elephant projects that will give them what we call their own kickbacks, and in the northern states, most governors there do not actually see education as something very important. No wonder the phrase Boko Haram, meaning education is not necessary. Boko Haram, babu to education, they don't need it. So because of that kind of feelings, and because of the Al-Majari system, people were not willing to invest in education. And unfortunately, most of the successful leaders in the north, most of them did not actually go through Western education before they could become successful. So others coming up, you don't see the reason why they should. Instead, they were bringing their young boys together, giving them money to go and get married and not to invest in education. So you can see that the thinking, cultural thinking of the people is a determinant of the kind of access or the kind of way and manner they will see these funds. My opinion is that there is a disbalance in economics. Buy one, get two free. So in this counterpart funding, pay some amount, get double the amount you have paid. Then what stops from getting the amount? So the point is that people don't know that this could be adequately used. Unfortunately, most governors, especially in the southeast, they've transferred the burden of education to parents instead of government taking it. And Lagos State almost took that same initiative when they hiked the school fees of model colleges. So these parents are complaining. School fees should not be transferred to parents. Go and get your UBEC fund. Use this for primary schools and for junior secondary schools. So, and unfortunately, these states that could not actually get these funds and utilize them are asking for foreign loans for education. And when you have someone, what you have in the pocket of your Sokoto, you are not going to Sokoto to go and find it. Meaning what is so near to you, you are not accessing it. You are not 5 kilometers for what's called education fund loans or assistance. I think they should know the importance of this and sit up and wake up from their slumber so that they know that it is to the advantage of the system. As at now, schools are rotten. If you go to schools, most schools, there are no set of furniture. Students sit on bare floor. School teachers are not paid. No research fund. In some schools, the teachers on ground are not better than the literates. There was a particular time when the governor went to some schools and he did some kind of impromptu interview for teachers. Most of them could not answer the questions. And this is who should teach. But the point is that where is the fund to send them on training, to equip them? There are no library, no facilities, no laboratory facilities. And the funds are there, and you refuse to access these funds. Something is wrong. This is crime against humanity. And governors responsible for this definitely will have their names written in gold in the history of this nation. Gold in quotes.
Okay, Dr. Elusanya, what then will become of our future generations if we are not responsible for their education and, of course, development at the basic level? And it will surprise you from the figures given by the Executive Secretary of UBEC. He mentioned states like Katsina and Kaduna that they accessed the UBEC fund in the year 2024. Of course, Abia did not, but yet, when you look at the school results of schools from the eastern part of the country, they are always on top compared to some other part of the country. And even in Southwest, there are some states that you would have expected that for 2024, they would have accessed these funds, and they did not. So what becomes the future of our young ones now that Nigeria is trying to compete with the rest of the world?
Well, it's relative because if the states think that they are doing what they should do to make education better in their states, that is something that you can begin to relate with. But the key issue is that when you look at the national statistics in terms of classroom availability at the junior secondary level, as at 2022, National Personnel Audit Report said that there are over 200 classrooms that are required across the nation at different geopolitical zones. The percentage of schools that are without furniture, national average, 73%. And then you talk about schools without toilets. We have a national average of 29%. So I'm not sure whether the states feel that they are developing a full complement of education to the children in Nigeria with this kind of statistics. But I think what we should be looking at is what could it be? Because UBEC fund is equivalent of tertiary education fund, TET fund. And we are not having this kind of issue with TET fund. So I think we need to look beyond what we are being told by UBEC to really find out why, Ajibola, will I want to give you 1 million and say that you have access to 2 million and you refuse to give the 1 million. So it's either you don't trust me, it's either there are certain strings attached, or so that there are some underlying currents why you wouldn't want to take that money. So for me, I think we need to try to understand and then possibly see what is going on behind the scene in terms of this funding so that our children across Nigeria can actually benefit from the utilization of this fund to reduce the burden of schools without furniture, to reduce the burden of percentage of schools with bad classrooms. Nationally, we have 44% of schools with bad classrooms as of 2022. So all these factors are going to contribute to the general challenge of learning outcome, which we are already behind in Nigeria. Though some are not in school, those who are in school are behind their contemporaries globally. So for me, I think what should be looking at is what exactly how do we help this government to ensure that the states actually access this? And I think that is what the journalists, the television stations need to do, so that we name and shame and put pressure on the states for them to come together to resolve this particular challenge.
Okay, Dr. Olusoya, even those that are in school, let's not talk about those who are out of school. What is the quality of education that they are getting?
Well, it's a bit difficult to say that, but what we have is that kids in Nigeria are learning less when compared to kids in other parts. Aside from that, there are researches that have been done to show that our children are just marking years, but in terms of learning, a child in P4 is actually able to do the work of the curriculum of P2 in English language and mathematics. And so there are variations across states from reports of work done in Nigeria. So, and when you are not having the full complements of the resources that are required now to make sure that the children have, for instance, we have had conversation about shortage of teachers on this program conversation. We are having conversation about shortage of other resources. So it is clear we are going to continue to be behind except we do what is needful. And this is a challenge to Nigeria, National Economic Council, Governors Forum to deal with this. I think the same energy that has been used to deal with the issue of tax reforms by our governors need to be deployed to deal with the underlying issues related to this issue of matching grants. Or perhaps there is need for a legislative reform. Because for me, if there's a matching grant that has been offered and it's not been taken, do we need to think differently? Do we need to decide to say it's no longer a matching grant? Do we need to say that if you fail to access this fund, you forfeit it? I know there are political issues, but we need to find a solution so that this fund does not just continue to lie in waste when other states actually require them for the improvement of our education system. By and large now, the learning assessment situations in Nigeria is not the best across most of the states, especially at the basic education level.
So, Otoba Ogunaja, if we cannot get it right at the basic education level, then what is the quality of student that we are going to churn out at the end of the day? Because once you miss it at the primary school level, there is every possibility that you are not likely to get it right. That's on one side. And there's this particular data from UBEC, which says that the Northwest ranked first in claiming their UBEC fund, followed by the South-South, North Central, Northeast, and Southwest. And then the UBEC
last.
Yeah. And the UBEC Executive Secretary is hereby saying that he's wondering why it is difficult for these state governors to pay their counterpart funding. All they are doing is paying lip service to education, which is germane to the overall development of any society. More so now that we are facing the problem of insecurity. Where there's poverty, there will be insecurity.
Thank you. See, most state governments do not really appreciate the need for what is called Western education. But that's not to say that it is a general issue. If you look at what happened this year, last year, 2024, out of the 36 states of the Federation and Federal Capital, like 17 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital, actually assessed 19 billion of this of the fund. Only 17 states are left to assess the remaining 16.2 billion, which means most states are beginning to see the need for these funds to be accessed. That means if 90 states could access the fund plus Federal Capital Territory, that means there are no impediments. There are no impediments. They couldn't have given these states a free passage and leave impediments on the way of the remaining 17 states. It's a matter of choice. The decision of the governor, what's called prioritization. Some governors prioritize education. Some prioritize establishment of airports. Some prioritize establishment of universities, private universities. It depends on where their interest lies. So the point is that why don't we have governors who are so keen in ensuring that the poverty level is reduced? With education, you can take someone away from poverty and turn him to another thing. When you can read, when you can write, your mind becomes liberated. Your brain is called liberated. Your hands are liberated. Because you will have learned something. You can know your own. Fend for yourself. You don't need to waste or rest on government. If you now continue like this, the danger is that there is a say that the foundation determines the structure. So if the primary education system is poor and it's not strong enough, you cannot build on it. And that explains why most university graduates in Nigeria today cannot even write their names. They cannot write letters of application. They cannot prepare curriculum vitae. They cannot go for interviews and pass. You cannot see them use processes properly. A lady will call herself is the one. A man will call another colleague, another man, she is coming. Because of the poor knowledge they have had.
At the primary school
level? At the primary school level. These are basics that you learn from primary school. You will not get to secondary school or the university for lecturers to be telling you that when you say a man, he is he. When you say a man, it's no. You should have learned all this. But these ones are not there. At the same time, nature or the immediate cultural environment is equally inhibiting this. In some states in the north, because of insecurity, pupils are not ready to go to schools again. They are ready to go to schools again. The danger of being kidnapped, the danger of ransom to be paid, bombs exploding here and there. I said, you want to stay at home. At best, be on the streets. And that explains why the number of out-of-school children is increasing. As of today, it's almost about 20 million in Nigeria. It is the highest in the whole world. And that speaks volume. So the point is that there must be a reorientation, especially among governors. Any governor is not keen.
They are educated.
Education differs from education. If a governor decides to get a degree so as to scale through the scrutiny of INEC, that governor is not educated. That governor just wanted a degree so that he can stand for election. It's not educated. So if governors go ahead because they want to qualify for election, to obtain degrees and say, yes, I don't have a BSc degree, I can become the governor. That governor is not educated. So that governor has only taken advantage of the system to present himself for election. So, but a governor is educated, who will have gone through the mill, will have gone through the runs, we will have seen that in the governor, the way we will speak, the way we will handle education. Look at the way Oshomole handled education when he was governor of Edo State. He will go to schools on the spot in time for teachers, ask them to come and teach what they were supposed to do to the students, and we will see corrections to be made. Look at the way Jakoni handled education in Lagos State then. So this is what I say, that's what's the meaning of education. It's not because they are graduates. So most of them are graduates because they want to contest for elections. So let us have governors who are really keen, who are so much interested in education, who know the meaning of education, so that they can bring up these children and take them out of the doldrum and make them real leaders of tomorrow. Else, Nigeria will be in trouble.
Nigeria will be in trouble. Dr. Elisanya, do you agree with that? And in addition to that question, what are the things that we need to put in place to get things right for the year 2025 so that these governors would at least access this money for the development of basic education in their states?
Thank you very much. You actually asked if I agree with what my colleague said. Well, actually, he had made very good points and they are very valid contributions. But there's only one side of it that I think I wanted to illuminate upon, which is the fact that because 19 states access the fund, it means there is no impediment. I think it might not be totally correct, because from experience and from what we have found out, I think there is need to look deeper into why. In 2011, when we look deeper into why, you know, education is on concurrent legislative lists. Each state has their own budget for education, and they have what they want to do with whatever they are budgeted. So what was found out, at least for one particular state, which is Lagos, which I was aware of, in 2011, because there was backlog of 3 years that Lagos did not access then, because we were working with Lagos State Universal Basic Education Board. And so what happened was that what the government had actually done with their own resources, they were the same things that the matching grant of UBEC was prescribed to be used for. And so that became an impediment for Lagos and a few other states. And there was so much rigidity that UBEC, as at that time, felt that whatever they have written that the fund should be meant for is what should be done. So it means like doing the same thing, repeating what you have done, which seems abnormal. So I think we need to look beyond and see, talking to the governors, talking to the state chairman of SUBE, talking to the commissioners in the state, what the challenges could be, and where the challenges are actually because the governors are not allocating resources for the matching grants, then that's a completely different thing. It's going to be different forks for different people. It might end up to be that there are no issues. It's the governor that is not allocating resources, whereas in some other states, it might be different. So that will help us to actually know how to solve the problem, remove the bottleneck, and all the states are assessing the fund. But for me, going forward, I think we need to have some UBEC, like UBEC have put this information out. They have to continue to put this information out regularly. The public relations department has to continue to put this information out regularly so that citizens, civil society organizations, television stations, radio stations, journalists can pick this up for the purpose of making sure that Nigerian child, who is the major beneficiary of this legislative procedure, legislative enactment that has made this fund to be available, they end up being beneficiaries of what we have planned, the nation has planned to deliver and to do for them. Otherwise, we will come back here next year, is going to be, it has not been assessed again. Year after, it has not been assessed. I think this issue needed to be taken forward with the Nigerian governors, highlighting, and also it's an economic issue. The National Economic Council needs to be involved in this, where all the governors also are present, to see what the issues are, and then make the states be able to assess the fund. And when they assess the fund, they are used judiciously for the purpose of improving teaching and learning in our states. So for me, that is what I will consider the way forward.
All right, Otuma Ogunlaja, if we fail to implement this UBE scheme, somebody had a vision in 1999, and that was why he created that scheme. If we fail to implement this scheme effectively as a nation, what are the dangers ahead for us?
The dangers are ominous. And if care is not taken, they could signal the beginning of the gradual depreciation of the standard of education in Nigeria. But before I go to that, I want to quickly add that for this system to really succeed, let UBEC on monthly basis or quarterly basis reel out statistics of states that have actually accessed these funds and the states that have not done so that citizens or indigents of that state can ask their governor, why have you not taken advantage of this? Where there are so many schools that are left out furniture, there are many schools in laboratory, there are many schools without library, there are many teachers that deserve to be trained, and you are not accessing these funds. What is happening? By the time governors are taken, are accosted, and they ask to their questions, then they want to sit up and get something done. Aside from that, let governors who are in the past taking these funds and they have misappropriated them, as soon as they leave office, let them be made accountable. And if they are dealt with, you know that if I take this money, it was appropriately used. Another one is that no governor should be allowed at any foreign loan if he has unassessed UBEC fund. Go and use that to ask a foreign loan and stop making the states liabilities. Now,
the dangers ahead.
Dangers ahead. Let me put it this way. As at now, if a Nigerian doctor, a Nigerian lawyer, a Nigerian professional moves to Canada, London, other countries, you are ridiculously has to go back for another 9 months or 1 year training before you can practice. Yes. I said ridiculously. I use that word. Because those colleagues of yours there are not better than you. But because of the foundation we have had, when a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, an engineer will go for an interview, and basic construction of grammar is not there. So they begin to doubt what kind of foundation have you had, but because of what they are doing now. That is one. Number two, you equally see that most private universities and what are called established universities now are beginning to sift the wood, the grain from the shaft. As soon as you have been declared qualified for admission, they now ask to come and do what again?
Pursue me.
They want to see your standard themselves, because there's no trust
in what you're carrying.
In what you're carrying, there's no trust. And so now, what's the matter? These certificate carriers do not have any confidence in themselves. A graduate cannot come out and face the crowd, cannot even attend an interview. What have you learned? As a graduate, what's your discipline? The next will be discipline. I don't follow. I don't run against laws, so how can I be disciplined? It happens. And these are graduates, all because of the foundation. You see? So the point is that if care is not taken, we're going to be in trouble. And the governors must be made to realize that whatever they do now is for posterity. Most of us are shouting Jakode today because of what he did for education. Most of us will never forget about Obafemi because of what he did for education. Then, what would they be remembered for when they leave? They should have this at the back of their minds. So they should quickly assess the funds and use the funds properly. Properly, that's important. Use the funds properly. Let the schools be better equipped. Let furniture be there. Let libraries have adequate textbooks. Let laboratories have the apparatus and chemicals to use. Let the technical workshops be there. Let the teachers be trained. Let them be exposed to modern techniques, and let the students equally have access to this. Then the reward will come. And when the reward comes, it will be Nigeria going through the First World War. Becoming a nation to be reckoned with, becoming a nation that people say, yes, Nigerians have come and they are there. And thank God, most Nigerians are brilliant, but we need to equip them right from the word go.
Okay, Dr. Ilusanya, looking at the Millennium Development Goals now, and whether we like it or not, there are signs that we have missed it at the basic education level. Are there possibilities that we are still likely to meet our Millennium Development Goals, even with the attitude of these governors towards the provision of basic education at the primary and junior secondary school level?
Well, it's risky. We are at risk already of meeting the Sustainable Development Goal 2030. We are highly at risk. One, the teacher availability issue, that one was raised last year, and those are impediments. Now you are talking about infrastructure, you are talking about quality, and then also, the Sustainable Development Goal is an extension of the Millennium Development Goal. And we are having a huge number of children, depending on the statistics you are relying upon, 10 to 20 million children out of school. We are close to missing. We are most likely going to miss the 2030 mark of Sustainable Development Goal. It's not a cause because we are not on track at all in terms of the quality of what we are delivering, in terms of our progress marker. We are far from being able to meet the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is actually for education. So it's not a doomsday judgment. It is a reflection of where we are and what we have actually done. So, but what we can do is we can double up, because always when the timeline elapses, there are going to be some remedial opportunities for countries and states that do not meet it to be able to do some things to be able to meet it. Because we didn't meet the MDG, which was 2015, which expired in 2015. And 2013, we are not on track. That is clear. We are not on track.
As we begin to wind down now, we are not on track. Quickly, what are those things that we can quickly do short term and long term to actually address this problem?
Yeah, I agree with my colleague that we are really not on track. And I would say that yes, it's not the doomsday judgment. It is the judgment. That is the truth. Because at times you need to hit the nail on its head so that those in power will know when you must talk truth to power. So they must know that yes, they have to buckle up and do the appropriate thing. Quickly, let us revolutionize education, especially that primary education. Establish secondary school, establish building, construct new buildings here and there. Provide adequate school furniture. Make the environment enticing. Let there be security. Let a child going to school know that he will come back from school today.
Safe.
Say, not that, I don't know what will happen. Oh. You see? Let the parents send the child to school, say that by 12, by 1, my son, my daughter will go back from school safely. That's one. Let the teachers call them when they go to school, they will come back home. They expose them to basic system of teaching. Most of these advanced countries now use this Montessori education system. Let us go into that. And more importantly, let there be adequate ratio of teacher-students allocation. When a particular teacher has to deal with about 100 students in the class, it's not good enough. We are only lucky that most of these private schools, pupils, their parents believe that if they don't go to nursery school, they are not better prepared. As a result, most of them are going to nursery school. So that has taken the pressure out of government. But where people still remain in private schools and public schools, then they should have access to good and qualitative education.
All right, we must thank you very much, Otumba Muyiwa Ogunlaja, educationist and policy development strategist, for your time on the conversation this morning.
Thank you.
And of course, Dr. Gboyega Ilusonya, MD Wise Daniel Development Consultancy Limited. They've been sharing their thought with us on the 263 billion UBEC fund, which some state governors have refused to access. Whether we like it or not, education is germane to the development of any society. That's our offering on this side of the set. I'll be handing you over right now to Adebimpe and Joy for another conversation entirely from the Lagos angle. We'll be right back.